getting everyone in the routine, explaining this is where now we're going to be storing these things. Labels do help. Bins and labels are important. Label baskets, hats, gloves, purses, have those things in place visually, because it might seem, as you're the one that has set up this system, so intuitive and so easy for everyone to understand. But to everyone else in the family who was not part of the process, they're still going to need to get used to it. So having visually reminders and instructions for them so they can kind of catch on. But it does take some time.
Hi, and welcome to the Motherhood Kit. I'm your host, Yamel Belen, a registered nurse, doula, lactation expert, business owner, and most importantly, I'm a proud mom of 5. Join in weekly as I share my wisdom and dive deep with parenting experts to empower you with your very own toolkit to help navigate the ever-changing seasons of motherhood. From prenatal excitement to the real, raw, sometimes harrowing, and often hilarious sides of mothering. So whether you're seeking guidance, camaraderie, or just want to lighten your load with loads of laughs, the Motherhood Kit is your safe space to connect, learn, and thrive. Let's dive in. Hi, friend. Welcome back to the Motherhood Kit podcast, your go-to podcast for all things motherhood, balance, and thriving. I'm so excited to kick off season 7 with you all. This season is packed with meaningful conversations designed to help you navigate this journey with intention, joy, and resilience. Today, we're diving into a topic that's top of mind for so many of us moms as we begin a new year: getting organized and staying that way. I'm joined by an amazing guest, Jacqueline Musselman. She's the founder of Organized by Dreams. Jacqueline is a pro at helping moms transform their homes and lives through practical, sustainable organizing strategies. Together, we're going to discuss the number one mistake moms make when trying to get organized, actionable steps to help you start today, and how to make your progress last long after you've tackled those big projects at home. Let's do this together. I know that right now we need each other more than ever. Hi, Jacqueline. Welcome to the Motherhood Kit.
Thanks so much for having me. Hello.
So I don't know if you've tuned into the podcast, but all of my listeners know, all of my friends know, I love organization, like absolutely obsessed. I am constantly trying to improve in my house and make things, everything needs to have a home and just make things a little bit more functionable as a mom of 5. So of course we had to revisit this conversation because I know that during this time of year, many people are trying to hit restart. But before we get into yapping, please tell everybody, how you started doing this. What is your background? How people reach you now? I want to know all the things.
Oh, well, thank you. Sure. So going all the way back, I have a degree in counseling. So I've always loved working with people, helping make positive changes in their life. And that I have 3 kids. So then I ended up being home with them for several years. My oldest is now a senior in high school. So I'm getting ready for all of that to come. So I've gone through all of the stages. Yes.
Amazing.
But about 8 years ago, I started a motherhood vlog. It was kind of what was, trending at the time, but I always loved sharing ideas with my friends. So I was always texting them, hey, look what I just did, organizing or putting little projects together for the kids. So that kind of naturally led me to blog. And I did that for quite a long time. And then about 6 years ago, I started doing decluttering challenges. So because that was the topic that just kept coming up again and again for moms, is decluttering, organization, feeling overwhelmed by all the stuff in their house and never really being able to break that cycle, get it where it could just stay organized. And so I started doing challenges and sharing ideas on how to declutter in a manageable way if you're a busy mom. And then about 3 years ago, I started getting requests from my friends and family to start coming into their home and doing
Lots of hand holding. Yes.
So it kind of just led to it. And now I pretty much exclusively, that's what I focus on more than my blog, is going out in helping people. I also take clients virtually and just really work by their side and support them through their journey and help them make lasting changes in their home.
And I love that you have this background because I mean, I'm sure you can elaborate, but a lot of the times when we do have clutter, it does have a lot to do with our mental health space and how we're feeling internally. I know for me, of course, having less clutter and having more organization makes me more productive. It makes me feel better. It makes me happier. But a lot of people that I see that are like, oh man, I so want to be like that, but I'm having a hard time in this area. In the back of my mind, just as a nurse and being a doula for such a long time, I'm like, there's something that they are trying to overcome. Can you speak on that a little bit,
Absolutely.
Jacqueline?
Yeah, I mean, physical clutter so much leads to our mental clutter. And when you're overstimulated, and sometimes you don't even realize that is what it is, like you're saying, you just feel this heightened state of anxiety or stress in your home. And once you start to peel away that clutter and you start to see empty spaces, it's just so freeing and you will start to kind of calm down. And we see it with our clients in a day. We start with one room, we clear out all the stuff, and immediately, you can just see them standing taller, taking a deep breath, feeling better, feeling like there is a way out. So it can be immediate.
And it's motivational and it also gives you almost like a jump start. I always talk to my friends about like, first of all, this didn't happen overnight. When they come to my house, they're like, oh my God, everything is neat. I mean, first of all, everything is not neat all the time. I just like today I have meetings here with my team and I got up like 6 o'clock in the morning to make sure everything was tidy. But because everything has a home, I was able to execute that a little bit quicker, but not everything had a home forever. And there is a time and a place. So I don't want a mom listening to this, for example, with like a brand new baby, a newborn, to think that they have to tackle all the things tomorrow because it's the new year. I want you to know that there's a time and a place. Like right now, my kids are older, like you. I have two that are graduated from college. I have one that's in college, and then I have the little school age girls. But if I had a brand new baby, I don't think I would be able to execute all those things or to keep every, spot in this home tidy.
Absolutely. I say it all the time to my clients. You got to understand the stage that you're in and know that it's ever changing too, especially when your kids are younger. They're changing so much, and you just kind of have to be flexible in that sense and also give yourself grace because the messes are going to go away. There's going to be times that you're
Yep.
not going to have as much stuff. So when you're in it and they're younger, it's hard to see that, but really life's ever changing. So you can't
Yeah.
beat yourself up over that.
I will say, I do think, in regards to my journey, I do think that there are things that you can do early on to set yourself up for success and to have better habits. I mean, one of my things that I do every day is fixing my bed. And I
Mhm.
remember growing up, my mom would always say that. She would be like, you need to fix your bed to have a good day. And sometimes it's hard. Like I'm trying to run out the door and I glance at that bed like, really? But it truly makes me feel better. And now it's such a habit, right? That I can't leave the house without doing that. So little baby steps are the best way. Now, I want to ask you before we jump into our topics and helping our audience, what do you think is the one thing that just sets you up for failure when it comes to home organization as a busy mom?
I would say the number one thing I see is trying to put systems in place, going out and buying all the bins and baskets without having a plan.
Mhm.
So I'll see from clients sometimes we'll get there and they're organized people. They seek out bins. They want to have things labeled. They want it to look good, but they don't necessarily know how to put it in place. So I would say the number one thing is to first do the editing before you're setting up systems in your home. So starting with one space, whether it's your kids' room or your kitchen, you first have to just clear out the stuff that you don't really need in that space and then see the space you have to work with. And then you can maybe get in some bins or baskets or organizational systems.
So what would you say to someone that's starting off right now? They're seeing all these because right now that it's a trending topic, just like us
Mhm.
going to the gym. My husband was joking the other day because he said before the new year, he's like, "Oh, now all the newbies are going to be at the gym the first few weeks." He's like, "I'm going to have to either get there even earlier or maybe take a break in the first few weeks." And now he's like, it's died off.
Oh,
Like
really?
all the
Mhm.
newbies. So what would you say to someone that's looking at all these tools? Because right now it's all over Instagram, all over TikTok, vision boards and decluttering. Those are the trending topics in the beginning of the year. What would you say to that person where to start to definitely be successful, to have that longevity later on?
I would say to break it down into smaller projects. So
Mhm.
I was just talking about this with a client the other day. I said, you want to first create a master list, everything that you want to do. So typically, there's going to be more than one space in your home that you want to do. Instead of setting yourself up for failure, thinking you're going to be able to tackle your entire home by the end of January, you want to break that down into really small projects. It could be one shelf in a closet, could be as small as you want to break it down. But basically, you want to have a master list of all the projects that you want to work on. And then you can start to prioritize them, plan when you can do them, and just break them down into smaller projects.
I also sought out help from someone like you,
Mhm.
and that's a tip that I would give. Even though I feel I'm a seasoned mom, I feel like I'm a little bit more organized. And one thing that I did notice when I worked with my organizer is that I am extremely sentimental.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
extremely sentimental. It was so hard for me to part with certain things. What do you usually recommend to your clients when they're having those issues? And I'm telling you, I save everything for my kids and I have zero regrets. Now, certain things, what I did in order to make room for the things that I wanted that belong to my kids is probably I gave away a lot of the things that were mine because
Mhm.
you can't keep both. I was like, Yamel, I
Absolutely.
had that. And I loved working with her specifically because I needed someone to be tough. I needed someone to look at me and say, mm, do you really have space for that? Are you really going to use that? So, what would you say to someone like me that is extremely sentimental? I want to keep everything, every little note, every little card.
I usually say is to define the space that you have to work with. So for kids, your kids, you might decide what size box it is. It could be the biggest tub that you have, but you have to define the space and the space that you have to work with. If
Yeah.
you're limited, you don't have basement, attic, all the places you can put, you have to set a limit or else those sentimental things are going to take over your home.
Yeah.
And I always tell clients we want to focus on our current life and our future and not have to carry so much from our past because eventually you're just going to run out of space. So it's like you said, it's about picking and choosing, defining your space. And so if you might have to make sacrifices in other places, but I also say to look at what the end goal is for keeping the things. So sometimes we hold on to things for our kids. We're not sure. Are we going to give it to our kids or are we going to keep it for ourselves? And that can sometimes also help define it. You might have things that you want to keep, little special notes that your kids gave you for Mother's Day and holidays. And then there might be things that you think the kids are going to want to have class pictures, yearbooks, and things like that. So I find it's helpful to break that out because in the end, if your plan is to give them to your kids, you're going to want to have a box for them and be able to send it off with them. And then you might be left with a smaller box of sentimental things that you're going to keep for yourself.
So true. And honestly, when my daughter was moving out, there were a lot of things that I wanted her to take. So I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, like I created this memory for you. So be ready, moms, that you may get to the point where you're keeping all these things thinking that it's for them, and they may be the type of the adult that that's not important to them.
Mhm.
So be ready for that as well, where it's not going to be about you. I recently decided one of my projects was I wanted to display their artwork. Like I said, I have two that are already out of college. So my oldest is a teacher and she's 26 And then my other daughter's 23. My son is in college. And then I have the little girls, which everybody hears me refer to. They're 9 and 10 right now.
Wow.
But I wanted to display a lot of their artwork because I love it. And my 10-year-old loves to draw people, and her artwork is just so beautiful. So I did that. So it also helped me when I went into those bins looking for artwork that I wanted to put in these specific frames. There were a lot of things that I'm like, why did I keep this? And I was
Yeah.
able to purge in that way. What do you think, Jacqueline, after, like, I love your tip about starting small, really developing a plan before going out to get all the bins, and don't get sucked up by the Container Store, Target. I love baskets. My husband is always like, really, Yamel, another basket? It just sucks me in. Like, Marshall's always has really good baskets, right? But if I don't have a reason to buy one, I'm not just going to buy it. What do you think is our tips, or, even one tip that you can offer in regards to making these steps manageable, right? So let's say I've cleaned out the closet by the door. How can I make sure that now I make this sustainable and that it doesn't become a mess in 2 weeks? Because a lot of my mom friends, that's what they experience. They're like, I just cleaned up that toy bin just 2 weeks ago, and I dedicated a whole day to that. And look, it's trashed. What do I do?
So oftentimes in those cases, I say there's probably another system that has to happen to help improve that situation. So I tend to look at projects and bigger than just that little space. So it might be that entryway closet, but it might mean your family isn't used to putting their things away in there. Maybe there's another spot that they're always putting, like dropping their coat, dropping their shoes, and that sort of thing. So if this is the goal, is for you to have everyone use this new spot, then it's just going to take some time to get everyone used to it too. And so it's getting everyone in the routine, explaining this is where now we're going to be storing these things. Labels do help. Bins and labels are important, once you set up that system. So label baskets, hats, gloves, purses, have those things in place visually, because it might seem, as you're the one that has set up this system, so intuitive and so easy for everyone to understand. But to everyone else in the family who was not part of the process, they're still going to need to get used to it. So having visually reminders and instructions for them so they can kind of catch on. But it does take some time.
So kind of like giving them an orientation after you've done the project. And it's true. I did a whole remodel of the laundry room, and it was on a day everybody was in school and my husband was at work, and I sat with the organizer the whole day. I had her the whole day. I'm happy to report, and if Angie, if you're listening to this, the laundry room is still in the way that we put
Yay.
it. I did give everyone a orientation, and we did very much label all the bins. Really nice, really aesthetic. But I love that you said that. And one thing that I would point out too is that somebody else's system may not be your system.
Absolutely.
So looking on TikTok, sure, that can give you ideas, inspiration, but really, what is your day-to-day with your family? What do you guys reach for the most? What do you reach for the least? And then really taking into account maybe areas that are just bringing you more clutter because you're trying to over-organize. One area, and you can chime in on this, Jacqueline, that I feel that a lot of people are wasting time on, and for whatever reason, it's still a mess, is their pantry. And I can speak for this. I have the smallest pantry that you can ever imagine. As a party of 7, I've had the same pantry. We've lived in this house like 18 years. Finally, this year, I was like, okay, it's been working. I was thinking of expanding it, but then I'm like, wait, but we've had it. It's been the same size all this time and it's worked. It actually helps me because we don't overbuy. There's not space for that. So what I did was I started looking up different inspiration, and I'm like, okay, we're always accessing this pantry. The door is always open. Boom, open pantry. Then after that, okay, what do we access the most? And like you said, the system. We needed a drawer for snacks, a drawer for nuts, a drawer, basket with baking goods. We've had an open pantry now forever, and it's great. With completely. I hired this company called Closets by Design. I don't know if
Sure.
you've ever
Mhm.
used them.
Yeah.
And they custom made it to like our space. So a lot of people come here and my friends, my mom friends are like, man, how do you guys make this work? And I'm like, you just do. And I feel like a lot of people, because you Google pantry and there's so much inspiration, so many basket ideas, labeling, this, that, and the other, hanging, how to put your cans. But really, do you need all that space?
Yes, absolutely. That's great. I would say that same thing. I work with families with the smallest pantry, with the biggest pantry, and you tend to fill with what space you have. So if you have a big pantry,
Yes.
it's going to be filled. If you have a small one, it's going to be filled. And you can make it work with any size. My tip always, if you're finding your pantry is always getting full, is number one, to not overbuy. We love Costco and Sam's Club. And if you're going to do that, then probably that stuff is not going to be able to be in your small pantry. You're going to have to keep some of that stuff in a different space because you only
Mhm.
work with the space you have. Turn off. A lot of times we find that Amazon, the subscribe and saves get you, and you just
Yep.
keep getting those monthly subscriptions and they keep coming. And then you end up running out of space too.
That is a great tip. Another thing that I always do is things that the kids are bringing home, like for whatever reason, the girls always end up with a whole bunch of stuff in their backpack, or maybe they come from my parents' house and my parents sent them home with stuff. So I'm always like constantly looking through those things to make sure that, okay, what needs to be purged, what needs to go in its home. Maybe we need to send it back to my
Mhm.
parents' house, their grandparents, and mail. I find that mail can literally overwhelm you, overcome your counter
Yes.
space, or take over your counter space. How do you normally assist your clients with specifically that? I mean, because that's inevitable. Even if we unsubscribe to
Absolutely.
everything, somehow somebody's going to find our address and our name.
Yes. Mail is a big one. I find for busy families, mail and laundry are the two biggest systems that we need to nail down because
Hmm.
it can cause clutter, disorganization, all the things. So with paper, I have to understand kind of how you bring in paper. Who's bringing in paper in your family? If you have kids, you're going to need a spot for your kids to be able to drop their stuff. So that's probably going to be one bin. Then you have papers that are coming from your mail, from you and your partner, bills, things like that. That's a different system. So you want to make sure you separate out the different types of papers and mail information that's coming in by your family. So I usually have a bin for kids. If it's a lot of stuff coming in, you might even have to break it down for each child. And that helps for kids too, because then they get in the habit of coming home from school, emptying their backpack. They have a spot they can put the papers right away.
Right.
And that helps them get in the routine. And then okay, the bin is full. I need to look through it. Maybe need to take some action, or maybe it's just review some of the things that they brought home. And so then there's that bin for your bills and the action items that you need to take too.
Engaging your kids, I love that. That's definitely one big takeaway, that if your kids are older or even toddlers love
Yeah.
to sort things and busy work. And that's a great way for it to be sustainable if they are part of the project. And that's going to be my next question, but I want to hear what else you had to say regarding that.
The other thing I would say is just be mindful of what you're bringing into the house paper wise. So there's a lot of things I have a recycle bin right next to the door that we come in, right by the mailbox. So
Mm,
there's no reason to bring in the ads you're not going to read, the postcards. So if you can make a little stop on your way into your house, right to the recycle bin, just to look through it, less you can bring into your house, the less then you're going to have to look through later and manage.
yes. Yes. I love that. So tell me, Jacqueline, what do you think? So, of course, I am a listener. I tuned into the Motherhood Kit podcast. I downloaded one of your resources, which I'm going to link in our show notes. And I'm starting this. I'm really pumped. I want to make this the best year for myself and to be, more organized, to feel lighter. And let's face it, like, let's be real with each other right now. We carry a lot of mental load as moms. and we're doing all the things. If I was to go over my day today, you would be like, Yamel, how did you even sit for this podcast? And if my house was not, at least I never say, oh my God, it's spotless, it's whatever, but I need it to be tidy. I need, I don't want a whole bunch of stuff by the front door. That is what helps. And of course, my bed being made. That is what helps me. So I know that this will make moms feel better. But what I do see is we do start the year off on a really good note, on a really good foot. And then we kind of like lose our balance. Every kid gets sick, or we go on a trip, or, the job gets busy. We get more on our mental load and we kind of fall off, right? So what do you think are some tips, maybe 3 tips that you have on your mind, Jacqueline, for building a sustainable routine that helps moms stay organized throughout the year? I want them to be able to write me in December and say, Yamel, I listened to your episode with Jacqueline and I'm still doing the thing.
I would
I'm
love
still
that.
good.
Yes.
Yes.
My number one tip I always tell the busy moms is to have a little kind of meeting with yourself on the weekends. So Saturday or Sunday, I call my Sunday reset. This is a
I
time
love Sunday reset. I love Sunday reset.
it's so important, and everyone falls off. I mean, there's, like you said, there is weeks where I'm on vacation or the kids had a super busy Sunday and I don't get a chance, but I try to get myself right back as soon as I can, because the weeks that I do not have a Sunday reset, I am off kilter the whole week. We just never find our groove. So the Sunday reset for me is looking at my calendar, seeing what I personally have to do for my own job, looking at the kids' calendars, seeing when pickups might be, drop offs, any special activities the kids have at school that maybe I need to make sure they're wearing a certain outfit or they bring something to school. So, calendar is important. And then I also do meal planning and grocery shopping then.
Yes. We are
So,
the same person, Jacqueline. We are the
love
same
it.
person. I found my people.
Yes. So that is so important. So it's honestly, I have it into such a routine. For me, it takes 15 to 20 minutes tops. Everyone can carve out just a little bit of time to do that. And again, it just allows you to not have surprises throughout the week. It's like you don't want to be surprised at your own schedule. All of a sudden, what
Yes.
days here? And you're like, oh, I didn't even realize that. But you
It
have your,
throws you off. It
yeah.
throws you off, and then you kind of get off of your routine. I noticed that when something like just pops up that is unexpected for me, that really puts me in a bad mood, and I'm like, okay, that was not on my agenda, even though it probably was. So yeah, I love that. What are some of your other tips to make sure we're sustainable?
So one of my other tips is to have a daily 3 is what I like to call it. So your schedule, your to-do list can be a mile long. There's always a million things you can be doing. And for me, on those busy days, it really helps to know what my top 3 priorities are. So usually the night before, I'm looking to the next day and thinking, what are 3 things I can get on my to-do list that's going to make me feel accomplished? Because even though your list is long, there's generally probably 1 or 2 things that, like, if you could get those done, you're going to feel so good. And so that's usually what happens and they can be work related, they could be family related, it could be making that phone call that you've been needing to make, but just picking those 3 things really sets the tone for your day and allows you to accomplish. And you can do more. So if you get through those things, you can do more, or you could say those were the 3 things I needed to do, and you will feel accomplished when you do that.
I love that.
And then my last tip is to really set routines and rhythms to your week. So I like to, starting with the Sunday reset, I know that's kind of just a routine that I always have. I have a certain day that I like to get the laundry done, at least start it. Usually for me, it's a 2-day process between getting the laundry started, there's getting the laundry started, folding it, putting it away, but deciding kind of when that's going to happen throughout the week. Again, so you're just not like every week kind of spinning your wheels. When should I do this? When should I do that? Instead, you have it in place. So it's just second nature. You just get it done. And if you have a busy week and something gets thrown off, then you just adjust. You adjust it by a day. And you can decide that during your Sunday reset, saying, you know what, I normally do laundry on Thursdays. Doesn't look good this week. What day can I do it instead? So I say that same thing with grocery shopping, kind of have a set day, any other chores that you like to get done, just kind of having a rhythm. And you can have flexibility in that. It just allows things to kind of get into autopilot for you. So you're just not always coming up with your game plan for the week.
Yeah. One of the things that has worked for me with laundry, and I know a lot of people listening, they're probably rolling their eyes right now when it comes to laundry, and having a big family is just inevitable. I run a load every day. And I have this like download that I found years ago, and every day has a color. So today maybe I'm doing whites, tomorrow I'm doing the sheets, and that gives me like because I hate to have that basket full. I don't want to get to a Monday, like you said, and uniforms are not washed.
Right.
So it's really helpful. And now, because I've been doing it for so long, it is definitely part of my routine. I don't want anyone listening to feel like, well, it's working for Jacqueline and Yamel just because they're the most organized people ever. I don't feel that I'm that way. Sometimes my bedroom is a mess if I'm having a rough week. But because I have these systems that I've implemented, these ways of our house running, like think of your house as how we have operation manuals at work, right? So I'm talking to my professional nurses and to my teachers, like everyone out there. You should have like an operational manual for the home, because that is the best way, not only for you to then have free time, because we can't be mommy 24/7, even though we are, but we need a break as well. And that helps us relax. My bedroom is like my haven, my safe space. So there's no toys in here. You're not going to be leaving, dolls, this everywhere. You can come and cuddle, but you need to pick up your stuff and take it to your room. And another tip that I would say is don't allow, just because, okay, our kids and we love them, they don't have to take over every square foot of your home.
No, I like that.
I don't agree with that. We can give them spaces. My girls have a basket in the living room that has some dolls, has some American Girl dolls because they play there. But most of their stuff is nicely tucked away in their bedroom. And that didn't happen overnight either. I remember looking around and feeling like, oh my God, there's toys everywhere. And that was a big mistake on my part. Yes, they are, the most important thing in my life, but it was just cluttering my mind. And then I was feeling angry and almost like resentful towards everybody. So that's why I love bringing this topic to the Motherhood Kit, because I feel like slowly every time that we have another expert like you, they're adding something else to their toolkit. And I know that we can all be successful and sustainable in keeping our house super organized.
Yes. Yeah, you said that made me think too is I think the one thing I've learned is that you just have to try things and see if it works.
Yep.
And I say that with the laundry. Try one way. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. You can't beat yourself up over it. And you just try something different. And as a mom, we have to be so flexible. We're always changing. That's part of the job. Job description is being flexible, because you never know what's going to be thrown at you. So try something, see how it goes, and then adjust if you need to.
And don't feel stuck. Don't feel, oh, I have the smallest pantry on earth, like Yamel, so therefore my pantry is never going to be organized. Or I have, my house is 2 stories, so therefore I can't ever. Like, I think that we will always find excuses, but if you're feeling like this is it, I want to make a change, let's start with these small actionable steps. I'm so happy that we had this conversation, Jacqueline. I feel like we will totally set up our audience for success for this year. And I am going to make sure to link how you can reach out to Jacqueline if you want that professional help, you want that hand holding. Let her doula you through organizing the home. And thank you so much for lending your voice to this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a great year, everyone.
I appreciate it. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Motherhood Kit podcast. I hope that you're leaving with valuable tips on how to get organized and stay that way, especially throughout this very challenging 2025 year. A big thank you to Jacqueline for sharing her expertise and inspiring us to create spaces and routines that truly support us as busy, thriving moms. You've got the control. You can do this one tiny step at a time. Let's continue the conversation. You know I love to chat. Connect with me on Instagram at Yamel Belen, on TikTok at The Motherhood Kit, or on YouTube. Your feedback means so much to me. And if you've enjoyed today's episode or any other episode, please consider leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to hit the follow button so you never miss an episode. Thank you so much for being part of this community. Let's continue to hold hands in this season of motherhood. Until next time.